As you're aware, on April 22nd, about 7 o'clock p.m., there was an incident, a car stop involving Assistant Sheriff Marshal and Bengali volunteer. At the time, we had 6 Nye County Sheriff's Office units do a traffic stop in reference to a complaint that they had, a misdemeanor complaint they had in reference to a petite larceny of signs. The vehicles were stopped, and subsequently there was an arrest made on Assistant Sheriff Marshal and Bengali. At this time, what I did is I found out about this at 4 o'clock in the morning, where I was most of the time. At that time, I recommended putting Assistant Sheriff Marshal on admin leave. I rescinded that, and I'll tell you why. Remember back, and everybody forgets, back in 2010 when Deputy Brookwitz, Detective Brookwitz, was arrested and charged with felony crimes, we looked at that and we didn't think that was prudent at that time to put him on admin leave. I know that there's some confusion why I did that, and remember that was during election year. And I took a lot of political heat over that, but the decision you make as a sheriff, the decisions you make. And I didn't see any reason at that time to continue to actually put Dave Brookwitz on leave at that time. And I did rescind that once once I started becoming more aware of the situation. I contacted Assistant Sheriff Marshal, and he contacted me, and I informed him, and I informed at the time acting commander of the South Area Command, Frank Jarvis, that I'm rescinding this admin leave, and we put restrictions on where he can be and so on and so forth, because we had to do the same thing with Detective Brookwitz. Bengali is still on admin leave. Whether or not he's going to continue, I'll have to look at that. I understand that at this time, what I'm getting is that he's concerned. So I'll leave it at that. One of the questions that it comes up, and what I did is that because I did not get any kind of news, it was kind of difficult because I couldn't have the highest ranking officer with the highest ranking person with the Nye County Sheriff's Office was Assistant Sheriff Marshal. Of course, I could not go to Assistant Sheriff Marshal and ask him about the situation. That would be a conflict. Frank Jarvis didn't know that much about it because he didn't get any reports yet. And then, of course, then there was this news frenzy that was occurring. And of course, then there was this other stuff that was occurring on these on websites and other things that I became aware of, and I got quite concerned because at the time it appeared to be that what I was getting was that there was car stops. There was a felony car stop, and guns were drawn, and so on and so forth. And apparently there was some situations whether or not there was a possibility of police misconduct. So I had to investigate that. On Saturday, I contacted Lieutenant Medina and assigned him the task coming in Monday, when he came in Monday, to do an inquiry, an administrative inquiry as to what the situation occurred. So I have an idea, instead of looking at rumors and reading what was in the newspaper, having an idea what occurred in reference to were there any violations that occurred, and was there any police misconduct at the scene of the incident. I'm not going to the arrest. That's going to be handled in the correct form. The DA Brian Kunze basically said it's going to the Attorney General. At the time, I informed Lieutenant Medina that we would not be handling the internal affairs investigation. We'd be handling anything that was time sensitive and anything that had to do with getting me information so I can go to the public, who I am responsible to, the citizens of Nye County, who are my chain of command, and give them an idea of what occurred, what direction that we're going to be looking into when we do request outside information, so that we have a concise idea within the internal operations of the Nye County Sheriff's Office in reference to a petite larceny, which wound up, the response was 6 deputies to something that what the allegation is that there were signs that were taken appropriately. What we did find out is that there was a deputy that was looking at some signs that were missing. The deputy then gave that information to a detective outside of policy. We actually have, and if I read this, this is the requirements for a detective to take over cases. It has to be a major offense. It has to include a coroner's death investigation, sex assaults or sex-related felonies, robbery investigations, battery with subsequent bodily harm, fraud, identity theft in excess of $5,000, kidnappings, home invasions, and burglary in excess of $5,000. And any offense that appears to be part of a pattern of such previous mentioned offenses, and any offense which follow-up is required in widely separated locations outside of geographic boundaries of the district in which the offense occurred. I was not contacted, and this was Lieutenant Jarvis, who was sitting in my stead, in reference to having a petite larceny and the thefts of signs being assigned to a detective. I would say that Lieutenant Medina and Joe Close looked at what video we have. They did not see any type of offenses being occurred in the direction I gave them. But remember, is that this is going to be investigated by an outside agency. What we don't have is the fact that was the Assistant Sheriff Marshal of Bengali afforded the opportunity to give a statement, which remembers that when we do the same thing for when we're investigating crimes, we give the opportunity for the victim and for the defendant to give a statement as to what this side's of the story was. There's not any indication of that. What we did find indication is that there was that the detective on scene, Detective Brookwitz, was guiding this operation at that location, at the stop location. I informed Lieutenant Medina because at the time we did not know. We were investigating this as raw. Lieutenant Medina did not know what was going on, and the appearances, what was occurring, seemed to be that until we obtained the facts, because of the supervisory position that Detective Brookwitz has, and of course now getting into some information and looking at what was coming to me 10,500 miles away, without any putting any discipline on Detective Brookwitz, just taking off putting on admin leave and having this reviewed as quickly as possible in order to see if there's any misconduct that would keep on having leave or reverse that. Yesterday afternoon, I talked to Lieutenant Medina, and he says basically is that Brookwitz can return back to full duty, and there was no appearance at that time of anything that was inappropriate at the scene that occurred, from what they can see from the video and what was occurring. So there's a lot of things that are going to go into the internal side of it. I was looking for anything that's immediate where I have to be concerned about as far as the public safety aspect of my responsibility as Knight County Sheriff, and any egregious policy violations or violations of law. Like I said, we just did a very cursory thing. Whoever's going to handle this will actually look into a lot of the concerns I have as the sheriff. Why we had 6 units doing a car stop. We had one responding unit that actually exceeded over 70 miles an hour to respond to a car stop in reference to the taking of signs that basically was a petite larceny. We don't have that type of response. When you have to look at some of these things, they have to look at in a reasonable. Was happening at that time reasonable? Was it a requirement to have that many units, assigned to do a car stop for people that were identified as a traffic marshal before that, and the volunteer of Bengali, and having that much of a response. So, and I said, there's things we're going to be looking at as far as giving it to the other agency. But like I said, we also have a policy in reference to issuing a citation at the scene for anything that's a misdemeanor as well. So there's things that we're going to be looking at. I'm not at this time placing any looking at Debbie specifically and finding out what they did right or wrong. I'm not investigating that. I'll get that report from the agency. The only thing I want to know is what was going on, because of what was happening out in the press is that there was a felony takedown, there was guns drawn, and so on and so forth. There was a gun drawn, but the gun was not pointed at anybody particular, from what we understood from what we saw. So I think if you have any questions, I'll take them.
Can you comment at all on whether or not Rick Marshall faces disciplinary action up to and including paid administrative leave as outlined in your collective bargaining agreement when it comes to disciplinary actions. I did ask him this at his press conference, but he wouldn't answer my question.
Well, first of all, the investigation is not going to be conducted by me. Okay, and I can't comment on anything that's going to be open investigation as far as that. The concern I had as a sheriff was trying to address a lot of the rumors that were going on. I mean, from when I'm not here, and it's kind of difficult to try to, to get information that I needed to make decisions. And what I was getting was information that was that seemed to be incorrect. Maybe over-exaggerated. I don't know what, I understand that Sheriff Rick Marshall had a press conference. I really don't know what the content of the press conference was. All I know is that there was one, and that's an issue that his campaign is handling, Rick Marshall is handling on that side of it. I'm not going to comment on that. But the concern, I'm not handling anything on the criminal side of it. That's going to be handled by the Attorney General's office, because the DA, Brian Quincy, rightfully so, gave that to the AG's office. I'm giving the internal investigation over to an outside agency. What I needed to know very quickly is what did we as deputies, did they commit any type of egregious situation? Did they follow procedures and policies? Did they do everything they're supposed to do? And if there's violations, what violations would occur? Were they significant enough to start looking at us taking immediate action from this office? I'm going to let the internal affairs investigators who were assigned this incident, I'm going to let them make those decisions. What I was looking for is anything egregious, and if there's any outward violation of policy, which I would have to start taking immediate action in the protection of the citizens who I serve, and making sure that the office is well served and the citizenry is very well served. So I had those responsibilities. But from what we see, and we didn't do an intensive investigation. We just did a very what they call just administrative side to see if there's anything egregious that we have to be concerned about. Those things are not apparent when the investigators do their investigation. They will determine based upon policy and law, and whether or not anything occurred at that scene that would hold people culpable for any kind of those violations.
Are you concerned? Are you concerned that the citizens are going to perceive that as some form of favoritism, being that he is not put on leave?
Like I said before, I didn't put David Brookwitz on leave.
Okay.
During 2010, May 2010. I don't know if you were working the paper at the time. You weren't. If you look on the archives, I mean, I don't know if you were here. I know you were here. And I know Deanna was here. There was a very there was a lot of publicity, local and I think it actually made international. I'm not sure of that. Where David Brookwitz not only was charged as father against Detective Brookwitz. Detective Brookwitz was arrested as well. I mean, and charges were filed. With felony charges, there's a list of felony charges that were filed. At that time, I stood by my detective, and stood by him, even though, as you can tell, during political seasons, it's very difficult when you're getting, you're getting people from the outside. Putting pressure on you. I had deputies on the inside that were putting pressure on me, and the administrative staff stood by me on the decisions I made. A lot of detectives, a lot of deputies wanted to see me put Brookwitz on admin leave. I don't know what that was about, but I took a lot of heat over that. My job is to make sure is the public safety aspect of it.
Okay.
If there's a deputy that's going to create a public safety concern, I have a responsibility to take immediate action if I can, in order to make sure that there's no litigious situations that can occur, and that the public is well served, and so I had those responsibilities. I don't see that in this case. You're looking at the AG is going to investigate the criminal side of it. An outside agency is going to investigate the internal side of it from all aspects. Going to take a look at this, what we have, and the videos that we have, and the communications that we have. They're going to take a look at it.